What tee boxes should you be playing from? Let's get into it. Hey everybody, I'm Brady and this is Tyson with Golf Ascending, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do so and click that little notification bell because we do create weekly golf content. And today we are discussing which tees should you play from.
Yeah, so this is going to be a little bit of a different format of a video. Recently, Brady and I have discussed tee boxes. You know, we've both gone through the yips before. We've had doubts in our game. We've been playing with people who we know probably shouldn't be playing at a certain tee box or potentially should be playing a further tee box. And so we just thought it would be a good topic and a good video to kind of discuss where we should really be playing. So I honestly was kind of inspired by this topic. I love playing golf with my grandpa. You know, he has been good at golf for as long as I can remember. He's participated in, state amateurs, senior amateurs. And, honestly, a tragedy happened. He had a stroke, and since then, his game just hasn't been the same. I still love playing with him. He's really good company. He's hilarious. I love watching him perform and do well still, but he feels as if he needs to play at the white tees along with, my dad, my brother, and me. And, one thing that I kind of approached him on is I was like, you don't need to play at these tees just to be with us. We want to be out here. We want to enjoy golf. We want to see you hit some good shots, have fun. I don't want to see you hitting a 3-wood from a par 3. That's just not the way that we should roll. So we're just going to kind of get into some of the indicators of where you should be playing. And we'll go over, kind of the basics first, but then we can get into maybe a little bit more of, specialty circumstances as well. So Brady, do you want to start off and talk kind of about, where generally speaking, people should be playing from?
Yeah, and especially if you're new to golf, a lot of people don't know that. There's multiple tees and it's like, okay, where do I go? So typically they have the front tees. A lot of people do refer to them as the ladies' tees, but they're not the ladies' tees. They're the front tees because they serve seniors, ladies, and junior golfers. And it's just the closest tee and a good spot to play from. Also, if you wanted to practice maybe your iron game and just kind of practice your shorter clubs. And then next you have generally your white tees, or usually called the men's tees. That's just the next tee back. And then past the men's tees are generally blue tees is what they call them. And those are generally the tees that you would play in a competition or tournament golf. It's kind of in between the men's white tees and the farthest back tees, which the farthest back tees are the black tees, or sometimes people refer to them as the tips. Generally what pros play from, or scratch golfers, really good golfers who don't have a handicap.
Yeah, so that's a great explanation as to just generically, if you just want to go, you kind of find yourself, okay, I'm, a 30-year-old male who, wants to go and play golf. Let's go into the white tees. That's probably what you're gonna be doing. I am, a senior. I'm, 60 or 70 years old. I don't want to, give all my effort in playing from something further. Go play from the reds. If you're a junior, you're a woman, you don't have the distance that some of these other ones do. Play from the reds. So let's kind of get into a little bit of a topic that you mentioned. So you mentioned at the red tees, sometimes you want to work on your iron game or something like that. So what's kind of interesting, and kind of think about this as, a perspective when you're looking at tee boxes. Okay, so the course plays completely different from each tee box.
Yep.
And so, whether you're playing, 10 yards back, 20 yards back, 30, 50 yards back, you're going to be put into situations where you're hitting different clubs in your bag. And so if you go to the same golf course over and over again, me and Brady, we play at Ranches Golf Course in Eagle Mountain. That's our home course.
All the time.
So we're pretty used to and accustomed to the hole. We could tell hey, you should be playing over here. If you were playing from the blues, you should, hit your tee shot here, do this, do that. But if me and Brady really wanted to practice different shots, different clubs, different situations, we could either move back or move forward a tee. And we normally play at the blues, but we could go up to the whites or even the reds. And I truly believe it would be beneficial for both of us. And I think we could still have lots of fun, even though it's a little bit closer. So that's kind of a perspective that I have. I know Brady recently has been working on some clubs. You want to kind of go into what you've been working on?
Yeah, so I have a utility iron that I just recently got, and so that's been kind of fun to test out off the tees. And so I wasn't going to be playing the blues with my utility iron, so I went to the whites, and it made the game a lot more fun. Every hole seemed to be a great distance for that. Obviously the par fives are a little farther, but it still worked out pretty fine, at least with the course we play. Some courses are really long. But yeah, it was kind of great because I was still able to have fun with a shorter club. I never pulled out the driver the whole round, but I was able to work on that one particular club off the tee, and it still put me in a good spot to enjoy the round. Another time is a club that's kind of new that I have is my 7-wood. I've actually played off the front tees with a 7-wood when I went with my son. He's 6 years old, and playing from the front tees was actually really fun. Playing with my 7-wood, it went the distance it should from those tees, even on the par 4s and par 5s. So think of it that way, like Tyson said, you're playing a different game essentially. Even for par 3s, you could really be working on your wedge game if you're at the front tees. So it's kind of cool to think of it that way, that if you're playing a course, especially if you're playing it often, you can totally change up the game and work on different clubs by choosing different tees to play from.
Yeah, I really like what Brady said about, he pulling out his 7-wood and getting practice with the 7-wood. What's kind of interesting is even, so Brady moved up on this, but Brady could also move back if you really want to challenge to the blacks even.
Yeah.
And on par 3s, what's interesting is he could actually tee that up on a par 3 and potentially work on landing a green with the 7-wood.
Yeah.
So, each tee box presents its own challenges, its own hazards, because a lot of them are different angles too.
Oh, yeah. A ravine could be way farther away from the black tees, and you're like, I have to carry that,
Right. So, each brings up its own challenges. One thing that I wanted to kind of bring up a little bit of story time. So, you guys might be aware around Halloween time, they usually have these scramble tournaments that are called like nightmare tournaments. Yeah. And they purposely in these tournaments make it as hard as possible. And so this tournament that I played in particularly, it was at a golf course in Lehigh, Utah called Thanksgiving Point. And this one particularly in Utah is notoriously known as being long as is.
It's a long course.
And so it was kind of funny, in this nightmare tournament at this already long course, they put everybody's tee box, you played from the blacks. And not only that, in this nightmare tournament, they put the pins in the worst places possible. And so one of the most valuable lessons that I learned from this tournament, because we did not play very good. It was so far away, but I did take some life lessons. So the first lesson is you should never be hitting a 3-wood on a par 3. You just shouldn't. That's not what par 3s are designed to do. You should not be having to hit, one of the top 2 highest distance clubs in your bag to reach on a par 3. That's just not the way that it is. That being said, also on a par 4, if you hit a great drive, on a par 4, and you still are a 3-wood away on a par 4, that's not okay. That is not fun golf. And then kind of the same thing, if you're having difficulties reaching a par 5, in the allocated strokes, you shouldn't be doing that. And so that's kind of one of the big lessons I learned from this nightmare tournament. Kind of the opposite of that, Brady and I mentioned we both play at Ranches Golf Course. And so recently, I've made a lot of improvement in my game. I've gained some distance, and I recently realized that, playing from these particular tees, I was reaching par 5s way too easily. I don't hit perfect drives every single time, but if I do hit a good one and I'm just like an easy 7-iron away from the green and I can reach it very comfortably, that's not really what a par 5 was intended to do, right? It was intended to be challenging. It was intended to be a risk-reward type of a hole. And so I just felt, if I'm reaching there easy, I want to challenge myself a little bit. I want it to act like a true par 5. And so I actually ended up backing up in the tee boxes. But, Brady, what are your thoughts kind of on this as far as yardage go, where you should comfortably be playing, tee box wise on par 5s and par 3s?
Yeah, I mean, I think the same thing with like par fives. If you can easily reach all the par fives on the course you're playing in two, and like with a 7-iron and not even a longer club, then yeah, I think you should probably move back. And then par threes as well, kind of a similar situation. If it's too far for you and you're hitting a 5 or a 3 wood all the time, then maybe you should move up. And I think it does depend on the course and how long it is, because at our course, there's one par 5 where there's no way I'm reaching it in 2, and so it makes sense for me to play the blues at our course, whereas he plays the blacks because he can still reach that in 2. But there's another course, the one he actually talked about with Thanksgiving Point. I almost always play the whites there because it's such a long course. Their par 5s are ridiculous, and you have to have a perfect drive, a perfect 3 wood, and then another great shot to maybe hopefully hit the green. So but kind of like we were talking about earlier, it really does come down to playing the tees that you're going to have the most fun at. You want to enjoy golf. Obviously, there's competitions. Like I said earlier, there's leagues and tournaments where they do expect you to generally play from the blues, so just one past the men's tees or white tees. But I think overall it should be what you feel most comfortable at. Who cares what other people think? Play what you're gonna have the most fun with, and then again, changing it up sometimes to work on different clubs or just to enjoy the course, to play it in a different way, because a lot of the hazards as well are actually set up for, I think, scratch golfers, to where the sand trap is right where someone would be hitting a 280-yard drive or a 300-yard drive. So it kind of makes it really interesting to rethink how you're going to play the course.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the last thing that I want to bring up in this conversation, it's actually a misconception that I would actually say, and that is the association with handicap versus which tee box you play. And you guys might think, if I'm a scratch golfer, I'm a +1, whatever you are, you're in that close to scratch range, you should be playing the furthest tees back. And I don't think so. Absolutely not. You've got senior golfers, junior golfers that are low handicappers, but the reason why they play in the tees that they are is because their bodies don't allow them to hit 300-yard drives. They don't allow them to hit a Bryson DeChambeau 8-iron that goes
220 yards.
275 yards. I don't know. So, but that's basically it. And so, I think it's more just, kind of distance. How far is your furthest club? Where does that club take you off the tee box? What does that set you up for your second shot, and so on. And then the next thing I kind of want to say, it kind of in tandem with the handicap, is you'd be surprised. Most people's handicap, the reason why it is higher than others is because of the short game. It really actually does not have anything to do with the distance. Most strokes are gained putting and chipping.
Yeah.
So you could be a great ball striker, but you could just not have the touch or the finesse around the greens, which is why your handicap may be high. So, a 20 handicapper who hits a 300-yard drive and crushes his irons, should he be playing from the whites if he is, a 20 handicapper? No. If maybe not, because, his 300-yard drive might not suit him and the course in the way that it was designed to do. So that's kind of my thought on handicap. Brady, do you have any additional thoughts on handicap with tee boxes? That's kind of an interesting one.
With handicap, I mean, I think if you're a scratch golfer, for most people, it does make sense, probably play from the blacks. But again, like you said, if it's senior or junior or ladies, it comes down to distance. And I honestly think there's no shame in playing whatever one you like. I don't think people should be shamed to play the whites or say, oh, no, that's too easy. It's like, just let people play golf. That's my opinion. I know some people in the golf world are really hardcore, give a lot of people crap if they're not really good, but I think you should be playing what you're comfortable with and what you enjoy, because golf should be fun.
And at the end of the day, I mean, we're not getting paid to play golf. We're actually paying for it. So, I mean, we have to look at it. We have to look at it like, I'm paying to have fun. Am I going to pay to play from, the championship tees if I'm having issues everywhere else? No. I mean, you're seeing the full course, but, you're seeing a view that was not meant to be seen if you're, if you're playing somewhere where you're not supposed to. So, that's just kind of, my thoughts. Again, my inspiration kind of came from, my grandpa. And I honestly would encourage him, if he's actually watching this video, like, there is really no shame in playing from the front tees. I would love to see par threes where he takes out, an 8-iron and he goes pin hunting. I love the competitiveness that my grandpa has, and, I encourage anybody who, is playing further than they need to be, scoot up, have fun. Nobody's judging you here. So, and if you do have people that are judging you that you're playing with, do not play with them, because it's not fun. So, anyways, if you guys like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you guys enjoyed this style of content, let us know in the comments below, and what other topics you might like to hear from us. We would love to hear from the community and give you guys the content that you want. So we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for watching.